Have you ever wondered why sometimes your mood swings feel like a wild roller coaster ride? Why can the closest relationships, the people you love the most, sometimes become so challenging and difficult? Or maybe there are times when a vague sense of dissatisfaction just lingers, like a persistent gray cloud hanging over your inner sky, even when life on the outside seems perfectly fine. Have you ever felt indifferent, almost numb to your own pain, or conversely, found yourself drowning in it, unable to break free? Does life sometimes feel like it's slipping out of your control, making even simple decisions feel overwhelmingly hard? Do you find yourself unsure of what you truly want or need, like a wanderer lost in a vast desert, lonely, struggling, and feeling helpless against the same problems that keep repeating themselves? If you've experienced one or many of these feelings, please know you are absolutely not alone. And it's very possible that the answers don't lie in your present circumstances, but are hidden deep within the distant memories of your past. It's quite possible that a knot from your early years needs you to return, acknowledge it, and gently untie it. It's highly likely that the inner child within you is carrying unhealed wounds, and it's quietly trying to get your attention, needing you to listen and offer comfort. The brilliant therapist John Bradshaw, a true pioneer in the field of emotional healing, once said something I believe will resonate deeply with many of us. I believe that this neglected, wounded inner child of the past is the major source of human misery. He elaborated that this inner child continues to operate within us, sabotaging our adult lives until we are able to reconnect with, heal, and champion it. That's a powerful statement, isn't it? It suggests that the difficulties we face as adults aren't random occurrences, but have deep roots reaching back to our childhood selves. And that's precisely why today, BookSmart Insights wants to explore a classic book with you, a work that has helped millions around the world find inner peace and strength. It's the book Homecoming: Reclaiming and Championing Your Inner Child by the insightful John Bradshaw. In today's sharing session, we'll journey deep into our inner world to better understand who this wounded child is, how it's still present, and how it impacts our adult lives. More importantly, we'll learn together how to reclaim that child, how to embrace and protect it with our mature, strong, and understanding adult self right here in the present. This is a journey to allow those wounds, long frozen in time, to finally begin to thaw. It's about breaking free from the swampy cycle of unconsciously repeating old hurts. And the ultimate goal? It's for each of us to truly live the rest of our lives with a healthy, autonomous, and resilient spirit, able to navigate the inevitable storms of life with greater ease and grace. So, grab a comforting drink, find a quiet space, and let's embark on this meaningful journey together. So what exactly is this inner child that John Bradshaw talks about? Is it some abstract, far-fetched concept? Actually, not at all. Think about it like this. Inside every one of us adults, no matter our age, there exists a part of our being that carries the characteristics, emotions, memories, and experiences of our childhood. That, in essence, is the inner child. It's not just about fleeting memories of joy or sadness. It's the most innocent, curious, vibrant, and creative part of who we are. Therapist Alice Miller called it the true self, our authentic core. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung referred to it as the divine child, a source of primal energy holding the potential for growth and rebirth. This inner child, in its natural state, is incredibly lively, full of energy, loves to explore, and easily finds joy and contentment in the simplest things. It's the wellspring of our creativity, our capacity for genuine connection, and our compassion. However, A sad truth that John Bradshaw points out, and many other psychologists agree upon, is that most of us, during our upbringing, weren't nurtured in a way that allowed this inner child to fully flourish. We weren't always allowed to be ourselves, to freely express our feelings, or to be accepted unconditionally. Pressure from family, societal expectations, rigid educational norms, whether intentionally or unintentionally, these forces often cause us to abandon our true self. And what happens when the inner child isn't nurtured and isn't allowed to be who it truly is? A false self begins to form as a substitute. This false self is built upon what we think others expect of us, based on the rules and roles we learn are necessary to survive, to gain acceptance, and to avoid further hurt. This false self can appear very successful to the outside world: the dutiful child, the star student, the hardworking employee, the person who always seems strong and put together. But deep down, it often conceals a vast emptiness, a disconnection from our authentic being. This false self accompanies us into adulthood, becoming fertile ground for later psychological issues. We end up living someone else's life, wearing different masks for different occasions, and gradually forgetting who we really are and what we genuinely feel. Another author I deeply admire, M. Scott Peck, in his famous book, The Road Less Traveled, pointedly stated, "Life is difficult. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Because once it is accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters." He also emphasized that most of us have psychological issues to varying degrees, and avoiding confrontation with our pain and inner struggles is precisely what prevents us from achieving spiritual and emotional maturity. John Bradshaw takes it a step further, asserting that all children growing up in dysfunctional families are wounded. He explains that a kind of low-grade, chronic depression often results from having to abandon the true self to adopt a false self. That feeling of emptiness, meaninglessness, and disconnection that many of us sometimes experience is in fact a manifestation of this underlying, often unrecognized depression. Sadly, many people are unaware they carry these psychological burdens. Others try to deny or ignore the truth. Some become completely engulfed by their instability, letting it dictate the course of their lives. Only a courageous few learn to recognize these spiritual wounds from the past and embark on the journey of healing them. You can see the imprint of this wounded inner child everywhere around you if you observe closely. A man well into his 40s who still throws tantrums like a toddler when things don't go his way. A woman who has buried herself in work for decades, functioning like an emotionless machine with no time for herself or her loved ones. Someone over 50 who is perpetually grumpy, critical, and lives by a rigid set of harsh rules, applying them to themselves and everyone else. A person nearing 40 who can't quit smoking, is addicted to video games, or relies on alcohol as an escape from reality. A woman past 30 who carries an inexplicable fear of marriage, childbirth, responsibility, or commitment. Someone who has lived more than half their life unable to trust anyone, constantly living in a defensive, suspicious state. A young adult who always needs to be the center of attention, believes they're always right, and falls into addictions, from shopping to romantic relationships, just to mask a fragile inner self. Or perhaps those extreme reactions to breakups or disagreements with parents. All these seemingly disparate behaviors, according to John Bradshaw, share a common denominator. They are the lingering effects of wounds the inner child silently carried, accumulating over time, and finally erupting or subtly poisoning their adult lives. To help us recognize these patterns more clearly, John Bradshaw systematized these impacts into specific manifestations of the original wounding. Understanding these is like having a map to help locate the injured territories within our own souls. Let's explore some of the most prominent ones together. Manifestation 1. Codependency. This is incredibly common. People experiencing codependency often find it extremely difficult to access and identify their own genuine feelings, needs, and desires. Do you recognize these signs in yourself or others? Frequently saying, "whatever you want," or "it's up to you," genuinely not knowing what they want to eat, watch, or do. Being unable to make decisions confidently, big or small. Always needing others' opinions or approval. Constantly trying to project an image of being nice, valuable, and pleasing others, while feeling empty inside. They fear losing face, rejection, or losing love if they show their true feelings. Some fall into despair, choosing extreme measures like suicide when facing significant loss, breakups, death of a child, career collapse. Their common thread is an excessive reliance on external factors, other people, jobs, status, to define their identity and worth. They lack a solid inner sense of self. The root cause often lies in growing up in unhealthy or dysfunctional family systems. Homes with addiction, violence, excessive control, or emotional neglect. The chronic stress and anxiety in such environments teach the child to shut down their own emotional signals and needs as a survival mechanism. Over time, they lose connection with themselves and the ability to build self-worth from within. Manifestation 2. Abusive behavior. This might sound harsh, but it's a reality. The wounded, abused inner child can be the very source of violent or cruel behavior in adulthood. John Bradshaw cited the example of Hitler. Looking back at his childhood reveals a painful picture. Frequent, brutal beatings, humiliation, and degradation by a tyrannical father. That extreme pain and fear likely caused Hitler to identify with his abuser, his father, and later reenact that cruelty on millions of innocent people. Childhood violence, abuse, and maltreatment can prevent a child from developing a healthy sense of self. As a defense, they might unconsciously become the very person who hurt them. But abuse isn't limited to physical violence. Excessive spoiling, coddling, and worshiping a child is another, more subtle form of abuse. It can lead the child to grow up feeling entitled, always right, and superior to others. As adults, they often lack responsibility, blaming others or circumstances for their problems, never acknowledging their own part. This, too, damages relationships. Manifestation 3. Narcissistic personality traits or disorder. Individuals with these traits often experienced a childhood lacking sufficient love, attention, care, and acceptance. Fundamental needs for any child. When these basic needs go unmet, the child's healthy ego development is disrupted. Alternatively, as mentioned before, excessive pampering and being treated like royalty can also lead to narcissistic traits. Common manifestations in adulthood include grandiosity, an inflated sense of self-importance, extreme sensitivity to criticism, even minor suggestions, a profound lack of empathy for others' feelings and needs, a constant craving for admiration and attention, lack of awareness regarding the negative impact of their behavior on others. Consequently, they find it very difficult to build and maintain healthy, deep, and lasting relationships. They are prone to addictions, romance, sex, material possessions, money, power, to feel valuable and fill the inner void. They might even disregard ethical standards to gain admiration. A particularly subtle and heartbreaking manifestation is the narcissistic parent who uses their children to meet their own needs, expecting the child to succeed so the parent looks good, manipulating the child, encouraging dependency, imposing their will, and lacking empathy for the child's unique feelings and thoughts. M. Scott Peck also noted that narcissistic parents often raise children who are at high risk for serious psychological problems later in life. Manifestation 4. Trust issues. Have you met people who need to control everything and everyone around them? They are rigid, distrustful, and can only relax if they do everything themselves. Or conversely, do you know someone who easily gives up control, trusts others absolutely, even blindly, valuing others' opinions far more than their own? Both extremes reflect underlying trust issues stemming from a wounded inner child. They often confuse obsession with genuine care, control with safety, intensity and possessiveness with true intimacy. Their childhood might have involved inconsistency from caregivers, sometimes loving, sometimes rejecting or neglectful, parents who frequently broke promises, or witnessing a lack of trust and constant conflict in their parents' own relationship. These experiences prevent the child from learning how to trust in a healthy, balanced way, neither overly suspicious nor naively gullible. Manifestation 5. Reenactment behavior. This is a fascinating yet often painful psychological mechanism. As adults, we tend to unconsciously seek out or create situations and relationships that reenact unmet needs or traumas from childhood. The subconscious goal is often to fix the past, to get it right this time, to receive what was missing. But ironically, we often end up repeating the same old patterns and getting hurt all over again. There are two main directions of reenactment. Outward reenactment, repeating violence towards others, frequent irrational tantrums, childish sulking, and rebellious behaviors. Or unconsciously choosing partners or situations that mirror the source of the original pain, e.g., a woman with an abusive father repeatedly finding herself attracted to abusive men. John Bradshaw shared the story of a female therapist specializing in helping abused women. She herself grew up with an alcoholic, violent father and an abused mother. Ironically, despite her profession, she ended up in 2 violent marriages herself. This illustrates the powerful pull of reenactment, driven by the deeply wounded inner child. Inward reenactment, directing the abuse and punishment towards oneself. Self-criticism, self-sabotage, self-harm, both physical and emotional. This often occurs in those who were treated this way as children. Or, when healthy anger is constantly suppressed, they grow up feeling guilty whenever they feel angry. All anger gets turned inward, leading to depression, alienation, and apathy towards life. They might experience persistent failure in various life areas, or suffer from chronic illnesses with no clear medical cause, digestive issues, headaches, muscle pain, respiratory problems, even cancer. The body is essentially speaking the emotions that were silenced. Manifestation 6. Magical thinking. This is the belief that some external factor, a person, an event, an achievement, holds the power to change one's inner reality, rather than believing in one's own ability to change behavior and take charge of life. Examples include, if only I get this job, my life will finally be better. Once I have more money, all my worries will disappear. Getting married will automatically bring me stability and happiness. Or negatively, if I get divorced, my life will be ruined. I'll be miserable forever. These beliefs place the power to change one's life in the hands of external circumstances or other people. The origin often lies in families, where parents, intentionally or unintentionally, reinforced these magical beliefs in the child. You're embarrassing me so much by acting like that. My behavior controls my parents' feelings. You're driving me crazy. I am responsible for my parents' anger. I know exactly what you're thinking. My parent has magical mind-reading powers. These messages teach the child that their happiness or unhappiness depends on external conditions and events, rather than their own inner state and choices. Manifestation 7. Attachment disorders. This manifests in two main extremes within intimate relationships: fear of abandonment, clinginess. These individuals may stay in toxic relationships, repeatedly forgiving betrayal or abuse, simply because the fear of being alone feels worse than the pain of the relationship itself. Fear of intimacy, avoidance. They fear being controlled, engulfed, or losing themselves in a close relationship. They might be very intense and passionate initially, but as the relationship deepens, they feel suffocated and find reasons to withdraw or create distance. Once they feel stable again, they might seek intense closeness, only to feel overwhelmed and pull away again, repeating the cycle. Both types share a common root: a wounded inner child who had to deny their true self. This makes it difficult for them to accept their own and their partner's feelings, needs, and desires. Crucially, they lack healthy boundaries in relationships: emotional boundaries, knowing what you want and don't want; intellectual boundaries, knowing your own worth and self-confidence; spiritual boundaries, knowing who you are, not fearing being overshadowed; and boundaries around values and beliefs, knowing your limits, knowing when to say no. Without these boundaries, building secure, trusting, and lasting connections becomes incredibly challenging. Manifestation 8. Improper discipline. Healthy discipline involves teaching self-control, honesty, and responsibility. It's a way parents guide children to live productively and lovingly and navigate life's pain more effectively. However, improper discipline causes harm. There are two main forms: lack of discipline, overindulgence, no limits, no consequences for actions. This can lead to children growing up rebellious, impulsive, thoughtless, unable to delay gratification, and prone to risky behaviors. Overly harsh discipline, severe physical or emotional punishment, excessive control, demanding perfection. This can lead to children growing up rigid, obsessive, overly controlling, or conversely, overly compliant, always trying to please others to avoid punishment. Manifestation 9. Addictive and compulsive disorders. Addiction isn't just about substances like alcohol, drugs, or tobacco. John Bradshaw significantly broadened this concept to include many other forms: behavioral addictions, food addiction, workaholism, shopping addiction, gambling, sex addiction, thinking addiction, being trapped in cycles of negative or obsessive thoughts, emotional addiction, addiction to the feeling of anger, to feel powerful, sadness, they don't have sadness, they are sadness, fake joy, always wearing a mask of I'm fine, fear, constantly worrying excessively about everything, addiction to money and material possessions, seeing them as the sole measure of self-worth. All individuals struggling with addiction carry deep, long-standing wounds from childhood. These are often wounds related to unmet basic needs: love, safety, acceptance, being heard. As adults, they get caught in a cycle of seeking instant gratification through addictive substances or behaviors to numb the inner pain and fill the void. Dysfunctional families, parents with addiction, emotional abandonment, children forced into adult roles, are typical breeding grounds for children who later develop addictions. It's incredibly difficult to live a healthy life without recognizing how the wounded child from the past has pulled you into the vortex of addiction. Manifestation 10. Distorted thinking, cognitive distortions. Interestingly, As young children, our thinking is naturally black and white, all or nothing. Things are either good or bad, love or hate, right or wrong. For example, you don't love me, so you must hate me. Mom left me, so all women might leave me. If I feel guilty, I must be a bad person. My parents don't spend time with me, therefore they don't love me, I'm unworthy. Young children are inherently illogical and operate largely based on feelings. If they don't have healthy adult role models to guide them in distinguishing thoughts from feelings and seeing nuance, they may carry these distorted thinking patterns into adulthood. Confusing feelings with facts. I feel anxious, so something terrible must be about to happen. Engaging in excessive overthinking to avoid uncomfortable emotions. Making decisions based solely on fleeting emotions, e.g., impulsive spending when sad. Catastrophizing, expecting the worst possible outcome in every situation. Fear of future illness, poverty, abandonment. Personalizing or mind reading, assuming others' actions are negative reactions to them, often to justify feelings of inadequacy. Manifestation 11. Emptiness. This final manifestation is often a culmination of many other wounds. As mentioned earlier, John Bradshaw believed many adults suffer from low-grade chronic depression, often experienced as a persistent feeling of inner emptiness. This happens when we are disconnected from our true self, living only through a false self. Life feels dull, meaningless, and numb. We might have a seemingly happy family, a successful career, and admiration from others, but deep down feel profoundly lonely. Lonely in our own homes, lonely in a crowd, lonely within our own souls. This pervasive loneliness can become unbearable, and tragically, some choose the most negative path to end it. Recognizing these patterns isn't about labeling ourselves or others. It's about starting to realize, maybe the difficulties I'm facing aren't my fault, not because I'm weak or inadequate. Maybe they are echoes from the past, the silent cries of the child within me who was once hurt. Identifying the wound is the first crucial step on the path to healing. Just like you can't treat an injury if you don't know where it is or what it looks like. We've talked about the symptoms and the manifestations, but where do these wounds actually come from? Why do the wonderful qualities of childhood get eroded and replaced by these emotional scars? Let's travel back in time for a moment and remember just how amazing children naturally are. Each of us was born carrying these incredible qualities. Wonder and curiosity. The world is endlessly new and fascinating to a child. They explore with all their senses, constantly asking why. But this innocent exploration sometimes meets with adult interference, often driven by the adult's own fears, anxieties, or even laziness. Don't climb, you'll fall. Don't play in the dirt, it's messy. Just sit still. Instead of creating safe spaces for exploration, adults often demand compliance. Gradually, boredom and withdrawal replace the innate drive to discover. Optimism. Children inherently believe the world is a friendly place, full of hope and good things. This very optimism and openness makes them vulnerable to hurt from those who should love and protect them most. Criticism. Why are you so stupid? Comparisons. Look at the neighbor's kid. Humiliation, physical punishment. These slowly kill the child's optimism, replacing it with fear, vigilance, and a pessimistic outlook on life and people. Innocence. Innocence doesn't mean foolishness. It's a state of being unbound by rigid prejudices and fixed notions of right, wrong, good, bad. Children live fully in the present, naturally joyful and spontaneous. But when parents expect them to be wise beyond their years, or conversely, overprotect their innocence with half-truths or lies, the stork brought the baby? innocence becomes a hindrance to healthy development. Some children even learn to use their perceived innocence, crying, pleading, to manipulate adults. Healthy dependence. Children have an instinctual need to depend on adults for care, love, and safety. This is the foundation for developing trust in the world and others. If this basic need is denied through neglect and abandonment, the child might grow up defensively hyper-independent, isolating themselves, or conversely, become overly dependent and clingy as adults. They don't learn the healthy balance between reliance and autonomy. Natural emotions. Laughter and tears. Laughter connects us. Tears evoke compassion and care. These are precious human gifts. But if a child is constantly shamed or punished for expressing emotions, stop crying. Boys don't cry. What are you laughing at? It's not funny. They lose their sense of humor, their joy in life, and the inner strength that comes from releasing sadness. Author Ashley Montagu wrote, "To be free to cry is to be liberated for living." Think back, didn't you always feel much lighter after a good cry as a child? If your tears triggered your parents' own unhealed pain, you might have been forced to suppress them. That buried grief is like caging a wild animal. Over time, it grows fiercer and eventually bursts out, often as uncontrollable rage or self-destructive behavior. Resilience. Young children are naturally resilient. They learn to eat, tasting everything. They learn to walk, falling and getting up again and again. They learn to ride a bike, not afraid of falling. But today, free playtime is increasingly squeezed out by packed schedules, parental busyness, and unsafe environments. As we grow older, we're even taught that play is frivolous or a waste of time. Uniqueness. There is no one else exactly like you in the world. You are unique. But instead of celebrating this difference, we're often compared, judged, and forced into molds. Be like your brother, sister. Girls, boys should act this way. We grow up losing ourselves in the process of trying to become someone we're not. Love. Children are born love, but to learn how to love, they need to be loved. Philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, "If a child is unloved, he will never learn to love." A child can only learn to love by being loved. This is the most fundamental human need, above all others. When this need is met through unconditional love from caregivers, the child's inner capacity for love is unleashed, and they learn to love others. Conversely, growing up starved of love leaves an unfillable hunger, an endless void deep within the soul, making adult life a tiring, painful, and dissatisfied quest to fill that emptiness. So what are the concrete forms these wounds take? Emotional wounds from lack of love and acceptance. This is the deepest wound. Busy parents, addicted parents, parents consumed by their own marital problems, they lack the energy and awareness to truly see, attune to, and meet their child's emotional needs. Any unhappy family in some way leaves emotional scars on the child. Wounds from abuse. Sexual abuse. This causes profound and lasting damage. It includes not only physical violation, but also more subtle forms like non-physical incest. For examples, parents turning to a child for emotional intimacy they don't get from their partner. Daughter becomes daddy's little princess confidant. Son becomes mom's substitute man. Children having to parent their own parents. Older siblings forced into parental roles for younger ones. All these role reversals and boundary violations are abusive. Discomfort with parental hugs, kisses, and lack of necessary privacy, these can also constitute abuse. Consequences can range from aversion to sex addiction, causing severe problems in adult relationships. Physical abuse. Hitting, beating, and harsh physical punishment teaches nothing but fear, rage, and unworthiness. It severs the sacred bond between parent and child and disconnects the child from their own body and feelings. Emotional abuse, yelling, screaming, name-calling, belittling, comparing, excessive control, perfectionism. These behaviors inflict deep toxic shame and destroy a child's sense of self-worth. Wounds from school. It's not just bullying, teasing, or physical fights among peers. Wounds can also come from teachers. Public humiliation, sarcasm, favoritism, unrealistic expectations. Even the grading system, while necessary to some extent, has a dark side of comparison and labeling, causing feelings of inadequacy and shame for many students. The school system, Bradshaw suggests, can sometimes be as dysfunctional as a family, failing to treat students as unique individuals with different learning styles and developmental paces. Psychologist Milton Erickson said, "No two persons ever understand the same sentence in the same way." Yet schools often try to fit everyone into an idealized mold, inadvertently stifling individuality and creativity. Ultimately, all these wounds converge into one core, devastating emotion: toxic shame. John Bradshaw emphasizes this is the core of our wounded inner child. It's different from normal guilt. Guilt is feeling you did something bad, and you can potentially make amends and apologize. Toxic shame is the feeling that you are bad, that you are fundamentally flawed, inadequate, and unworthy. It's not "I did something wrong," but "I am wrong." It's pervasive, encompassing your entire being, leaving you feeling helpless and irredeemable. Neuroscientist Alice Miller compared this feeling to being worse off than a survivor of a concentration camp. Why? Because in a camp, you have the right to hate your abusers. But within your own family, with your parents, teachers, figures you're taught to respect and love, you often can't hate them. You fear them, yet you also fear losing whatever little love or approval you might receive. This profound internal conflict creates a tearing, agonizing, and helpless state that can silently gnaw at our souls for a lifetime. Hearing all this, many of you might feel heavy-hearted, perhaps even pained, recognizing glimpses of yourselves in these descriptions. But my dear friends, identifying the wound isn't meant to keep us stuck in the past. On the contrary, it's the necessary stepping stone to begin the journey of reclaiming and healing. This journey isn't easy. John Bradshaw likens it to returning to the scene of the crime, the places where the inner child was hurt. We inevitably have to re-experience some of that pain and walk through it before we can truly heal and liberate ourselves. As the saying goes, no pain, no gain. Or perhaps more gently, the only way out is through. So, how do we begin this journey? John Bradshaw outlines a detailed process, and I'll share the core steps with you. Step 1. Acknowledge the wounds. This is foundational. We need the courage to acknowledge what really happened in the past. The emotional, physical, or spiritual abuse, the neglect, the lack of love from parents or caregivers. Acknowledgement isn't about blaming them entirely, nor is it about playing the victim and dwelling on resentment. It's about seeing the truth clearly, understanding objectively the wounds you sustained and how they continue to impact your life today. You cannot heal a wound if you deny its existence. Step 2. Revisiting developmental stages, reclaiming past selves. This is the heart of John Bradshaw's method. He believed the wounded child isn't a single entity, but carries the imprints of each developmental stage it passed through. For holistic healing, we need to go back and work with the self from each stage. Infancy stage, 0 to 9 months. In a symbiotic stage, total dependence and emotions are paramount. The greatest needs are safety, love, and feeling welcomed. How? Gather information about your family circumstances and parents' state when you were born. Were you wanted? Were they emotionally mature enough? Were they facing major difficulties? Write it all down. Share these findings with someone you trust, someone who will simply listen without judgment or advice. If you have a baby picture, gaze at it for a long time. Connect with the life force, the energy within that tiny being. Letter writing. Letter 1 from the wise sage. Write to that infant self as if you were a wise, loving figure wanting to adopt them. Express immense love, welcome, and cherish their existence. Affirm their value. Letter 2 from the infant self. Use your non-dominant hand, left if you're right-handed, vice versa. This helps access the more emotional, non-logical brain. Write a few short sentences expressing the baby's desire for love, help, and recognition. Note, don't dismiss this as meaningless. Unmet infant needs are still there, carrying their original energy. The positive affirmations in the letter act as emotional nutrients to re-nourish that vulnerable part. Toddlerhood stage, 9 months to 3 years. Exploring the world, asserting the self, no, mine, learning balance, walking, eating, bodily control, play. Wounds here often relate to imbalance. How? Similar to infancy, gather info, write down memories, and connect them to your present situation. E.g., how did your parents' lack of discipline then relate to your failures or addictions now? Share. Look at toddler photos. Letter writing. Letter 1 from the adult self. Write to your toddler self, saying that now you can teach them to balance, safe exploration, and healthy ways to express desires. Letter 2 from the toddler self. Use the non-dominant hand. Express the desire for freedom to explore, while still needing guidance and safety. Preschool age, 3 to 6 years. Personality shaping. Imagination takes flight. Constant why questions. Intense learning through imitation. Children start understanding simple cause and effect, forming initial beliefs about the world and themselves. Family instability during this stage heavily influences identity formation and later partner choices. Tendency to choose partners mirroring unhealthy parents. How? Look at preschool photos. Feel your curiosity and energy then. Write down memories and link to the present. Share. Letter writing. Letter 1 from the adult self. Write to your preschool self, expressing love, appreciating their curiosity, being willing to listen, and answering all their questions. Letter 2 from preschooler to parents. Use a non-dominant hand. Share simple feelings and wishes from that time. Wanting to play, ask questions, be heard. Do. Letter 3 from preschooler to adult self. Use a non-dominant hand. Whatever they want to tell you now. School age, 6 to 12 years. Learning knowledge, social skills, developing logical thinking. With a healthy ego from previous stages, children thrive. However, this is also a stage for wounds from school. Academic pressure, comparison, bullying, insensitive teachers. 2. How? Memories are often clearer here. Delve into joys, sorrows, successes, and failures at school. The feelings of shame, inadequacy from bad grades, being teased, those wounds still linger. Write them down. Share. Look at school photos. Letter writing. Letter 1 from the adult self. Write to your school-age self, acknowledging the difficulties and pressures, affirming their worth beyond grades or achievements. Letter 2 from school-age child to adult self. Use a non-dominant hand. Talk about fears, shame, and the desire for acceptance at school. Letter 3 from school-age child to parents, teachers, friends. Use a non-dominant hand. Express what you never received from them. Encouragement, validation, protection. Adolescence marks the end of childhood and the start of the journey into adulthood. A time of inner conflict, wanting independence yet needing support. Generational clashes, identity seeking, Developing sexuality, idealization, and disillusionment. If carrying earlier wounds, this stage becomes a real storm, often leading to risky behaviors, rebellion, substance abuse, reckless driving, promiscuity. How? Write the story of your teenage years. How did childhood wounds destabilize this period? How lonely, ashamed, and pressured did you feel? Share. Why write letters, especially with the non-dominant hand? Many people reading about this method online often wonder, perhaps finding it a bit strange. But my friends, and countless individuals who have practiced this, share that these writing exercises, particularly with the non-dominant hand, possess incredible healing power. It helps bypass the rigid, logical defenses of the adult mind to tap into the raw, authentic emotions of the inner child, emotions long buried. It's like having a direct dialogue with your past, with the most vulnerable versions of yourself. Give it a serious try. You might be surprised by its effectiveness. Step 3. Forgiveness. After confronting and understanding the wounds, the next crucial step is forgiveness. Forgiving your parents, teachers, friends, and anyone who hurt you. But it's vital to understand forgiveness correctly. Forgiveness does not mean condoning their wrong actions. It doesn't mean erasing the past or saying what they did was okay. Forgiveness also doesn't necessarily mean reconciliation or continuing a toxic relationship. Rather, forgiveness is, first and foremost, a gift you give to yourself. It's the act of releasing yourself from the heavy burden of resentment and hatred, toxic emotions that poison your soul in the present and keep you chained to the past. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Forgiveness helps you separate your wonderful, original child self from the critical, shaming voices of your parents' own wounded inner children, because they too were likely victims of their past. It helps you leave the internal haunted house of the past and return to your true home, the place where your mature, autonomous adult self is in charge. Author Mark Twain beautifully said, "Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it." Forgiveness transforms the past from a grim destiny into a source of potential wisdom, because through understanding it, you grow, transforming you from a passive victim into an active recreator of your own life. Important note, if in the present, the people who hurt you continue their harmful behavior, refuse responsibility, and show no signs of change, then forgiving them in your heart does not mean you must continue to endure their abuse. In this case, setting healthy boundaries, even creating distance, is absolutely necessary. This is how you protect the newly healed inner child within you. Step 4. Championing and reparenting the inner child. Healing isn't just about looking back. It's about taking action in the present to build a better future. After reclaiming and understanding the inner child, it's time for your adult self to step up and take responsibility for protecting, nurturing, and re-educating that child. It's like becoming the ideal parent that a child never had. John Bradshaw calls this championing, becoming a fierce advocate and protector for your inner child. It involves these concrete actions. Action 1. Write a letter of commitment from your adult self to your inner child. Apologize for neglecting it for so long. Most importantly, assure it that from now on, it is safe, protected, and loved by you. It can fully trust you. You won't let anyone hurt it again. You are in charge of your life now. Action 2. Abandon old roles. Bravely shed the masks and roles you had to play in the past to survive. If you were the superstar, the perfect child, always pleasing your parents, give yourself permission to make mistakes. to be imperfect. If you played the surrogate parent for siblings or even your own parents, return that responsibility to its rightful owners. Letting go of familiar roles might feel uncomfortable or empty at first, but it's the way back to your authentic self. You have the absolute right to be imperfectly you. That's true freedom. Action 3. Learn self-love. This might sound cliché, but it's profoundly important. Self-love starts with accepting yourself fully, strengths and weaknesses alike. Be willing to show your vulnerability, fears, and disappointments to trusted people. Sharing vulnerability authentically creates the deepest connections, especially for women. Stop seeking your value solely through a man's love. Romantic love is important, but it's not the prerequisite for feeling worthy or happy. For men, allow yourselves to be vulnerable, to express emotions instead of always having to play the strong, stoic role. Action 4. Develop self-discipline. The wounded child is often either undisciplined or was subjected to overly harsh discipline. The healthy adult self needs to cultivate balanced self-discipline, the sweet spot between freedom and responsibility. Discipline helps us delay immediate gratification, live purposefully, and keep promises to ourselves and others. It not only makes life more graceful, but is also a powerful tool for navigating suffering. Action 5. Practice consistent emotional awareness. Become a keen observer of your own feelings. Notice when the inner child acts up. When you feel bored, scared, tired, competitive, rejected, exposed, lonely, even hungry. Recognize that these feelings are often linked to past memories. When an emotion arises, don't judge or suppress it. Simply acknowledge it. I am feeling sad, angry, or afraid right now. You can communicate with that feeling through journaling or by talking to your inner child. Imagine them sitting opposite you, as Thich Nhat Hanh suggested. Allow the feeling to be expressed, to have a voice. Especially anger. The wounded child was often forbidden to express anger. Learn to connect with and express anger in healthy, assertive ways, as soon as possible, before it builds into destructive rage. The book Nonviolent Communication is an excellent resource for expressing feelings and needs constructively. Action 6. Master your thinking. Cognitive mastery. Identify and challenge the distorted thinking patterns ingrained since childhood, especially black and white thinking. Learn to see people and situations in shades of gray. No one and nothing is entirely good or entirely bad. Everything has multiple facets, existing simultaneously. As the philosopher Heraclitus noted, the way up and the way down are one and the same. Recognizing this relativity is the beginning of wisdom and inner peace. Action 7. Establish necessary boundaries. This is a vital life skill for self-protection and healthy relationships. Emotional boundaries. Respect your feelings and others' feelings as they are, neither good nor bad. Don't allow yourself to be manipulated by others' emotions, anger, sadness, fear. Conversely, don't use your emotions to manipulate others. Physical, sexual boundaries. Trust your gut feelings about comfort and discomfort regarding physical touch and personal space. Communicate these boundaries clearly, firmly, and respectfully. Respect others' boundaries as well. Intellectual, belief boundaries. Respect the fact that everyone has their own unique perspective, opinions, and worldview. Take responsibility for your own beliefs while respecting others. Even if you disagree, remain open to learning and expanding your own understanding. Action 8. Learn healthy relating. The wounded child often wants everything. My dear friends, this journey of reclaiming the inner child is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires patience, courage, and deep self-compassion. There will be times you feel discouraged and tempted to give up, times when the pain of the past resurfaces strongly. But please remember, you are not alone on this path. John Bradshaw's Homecoming acts as a dedicated guide, providing us with a map and essential tools. It reminds us that while childhood shapes us, it doesn't have to define our entire future. We have the power to rewrite our life story. Henry David Thoreau once wrote poignantly, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." Perhaps that quiet desperation stems from being trapped in old patterns, paralyzed by past pain, obscured by layers of wounding that prevent us from seeing our own creative potential and vibrant life force within. We get stuck in the quagmire of the past, afraid to step out of the familiar, though painful, comfort zone of our old wounds. But Carl Jung also stated, "The child within is the source of all creativity and potential renewal, but it can also be the source of devastation if it remains wounded." Paraphrased for clarity. The choice lies with us. If we ignore or deny the wounded child within, it will continue to be a source of devastation, keeping our adult self forever an overgrown child, a prisoner of the past. But conversely, when we bravely face, reclaim, and protect that child, we not only heal the wounds, but also integrate our fragmented self. The healed inner child becomes an infinite source of strength, helping us rediscover the wonder child, the inherently vibrant, creative, joy-filled, and unconditionally loving version of ourselves that has always been there, waiting to be welcomed home. Someone once said that the wisest and most profound people are often those who remain children at heart. That wonder child constantly urges us to grow and mature, not by denying suffering, but by embracing and courageously moving through life's challenges with wisdom and understanding. Our exploration of John Bradshaw's Homecoming, Reclaiming and Championing Your Inner Child here on BookSmart Insights comes to a close for today. I truly hope this sharing has offered you fresh perspectives, encouragement, and perhaps some concrete tools to begin or continue your own meaningful healing journey. Please remember, tending to your inner child isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process, a daily commitment to loving yourself. What resonated most with you from today's discussion? Was there a story or lesson that particularly touched you? Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. Your sharing not only helps solidify your own insights, but might also inspire others who are on a similar path. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving BookSmart Insights a like and sharing this video with others who might benefit. It truly helps the channel grow and create more valuable content. Most importantly, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you won't miss any future videos sharing insights for personal growth from great books. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this journey with me today. I wish you peace, strength, and joy as you connect with and heal the precious inner child within you. Goodbye for now, and I look forward to seeing you in the next BookSmart Insights video.